Hello, welcome along to a little impromptu podcast here for our Patreons and YouTube members Transfer Talk. I'm Martin and today I'm joined by Wilf. Wilf, how are you?
I'm fine, Martin, thanks.
Good. And obviously Kerr, who's on every podcast that I ever do. He is my saviour. Kerr, how are you?
I'm alright, Martin. I'm alright.
Right.
Not every podcast.
Well, just about. I actually had to try and get it more rotated. And Kerr messaged going, what's going on? Why am I not on all these podcasts?
I know. I was actually my wife that said it to me. She went, "What's happened to all these podcasts you were doing?"
Aye, because she's got to talk to you now.
Aye.
Right, so I thought we would just do a wee quick roundup of the transfers we've made so far, so that will take about 30 seconds. And then we'll have a wee look at what we think we need, and then we'll have a look at what we definitely need, and we'll have a wee look at Rangers' transfer business over the last few years. So far, listen, January's a hard transfer window, we all know that, but is it pretty underwhelming so far?
It has been. I mean, it's what we're now just over a week away from the window closing, and we really haven't done any business apart from selling. Obviously selling Nathan Patterson for a club record fee. We haven't really done a lot of business. We've signed up John Suter on a pre-contract. I fully expect that to become a permanent deal by the end of the window. But having said that, I don't want to be held to ransom. I mean, Hearts are apparently looking for $500,000 and they're not going to budge from that. And if that's the case, then fine, let him stay where he is, because I don't see why we should pay that kind of money for a guy we can get for nothing in 4 months' time. Now I know there's been a lot of chat on the Rabble WhatsApp, more especially from Alan, saying, look, we're trying to get top dollar for players but not wanting to pay top dollar to bring them in. But I don't see why we should pay a lot of money to bring a man in. Do you know what I mean? I mean, reputedly over the weekend we offered them $300,000 and they knocked it back. That's fine. That's their prerogative. If they want to do that, that's fine. But it's telling to me that he missed Hearts game with Auchinleck yesterday. I don't buy this. He had a niggling injury. That's just so he wasn't cup tied. Because if he's cup tied, Rangers just say, well, look, we can't play him in cup games, so see the bid we're making, we're going to make it even lower because he's cup tied. You know, I fully believe that's why he wasn't in the Hearts squad, and I think the Hearts fans believe that as well. You know, so
300 grand,
quite underwhelming.
300 grand, is that not an awful lot of money to ask for somebody who's out of contract in 4 months?
It is, but if we want to bring him in, I mean, look at Scott Wright. We paid similar for Scott Wright a year ago. I mean, I know the actual money that got changed was less than that, but we threw McCrory into the deal. Whatever Aberdeen were due to pay us for Ross McCrory, was right. Well, we'll take that off it, and then pay you the difference. And that was, I think it was about 350 grand we paid for Scott Wright. The whole deal, I believe, although it was undisclosed, and it took him 6-8 months to settle into the team. You know, so if we're going on the pretext that we still think Connor Goldson isn't going to sign a new contract, we're going to probably need John Suter to hit the ground running in the summer. So it might be better to try and get him in now. And if that costs us 300 grand, it costs us 300 grand. But I certainly wouldn't be paying any more than that for him.
No, Kerr, £300,000. Are you surprised Hearts knocked that back? If of course it's true.
Not really, because I think they want to get top dollar for their player. And I know they were looking for $1 million at the start. They knocked it down to $500,000. I don't know if they're looking for add-ons. I've heard they have been. I've heard they've not. So I don't really know the ins and outs. But they want top dollar, and if a club is willing to stick to their guns and not accept that, then let them go for a fee in the summer. That's their prerogative. Obviously, they want the money. I don't see why they shouldn't just take it. But I suppose if it was us, I would want a lot more as well. So I do think it might still come at the very end. I don't know if Rangers will offer more. Personally, I wouldn't offer any more because you're getting them for free. Do we really need them just now? I don't think so. I think we need him in, but I don't think we need him just now. He's not the most important position we need to fill at the moment because I think we're well covered in that area.
I know, it's just Kerr. I've never known that somebody signed a pre-contract before the end of the window. It's always done. They always move on. The position that Hearts are in, obviously, they're majority fan-owned now, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, you're offered 300 grand for a club like Hearts. That's a lot of money.
It is, but also if they can't get a replacement in, they're going to be struggling because they're obviously fighting for third place. They should get third place, to be honest with you, but if they let somebody go, don't fill it with somebody I'm not going to say they're going to get the same quality suitor, but somebody good enough to play next to Halkett, they might struggle. So you have to. Robin Nielsen will be looking at his angle. If you were saying, I don't want to let him go unless we get a player back in. And maybe the owners are saying, well, we can't get any, we're not really much money to spend, so it's a case of try and get top dollar. I will need to just keep him. So I don't know where Hearts probably Will's probably better suited than Hearts angle and Amar, but I don't know. I mean, Hearts are they've got a fair option to ask for the most money because if it was Rangers in that position, I'd be wanting top dollar. But at the end of the day, do you take something rather than losing for nothing? It's just the way that the club has to balance that out. And Hearts, I don't know what their financial side is, but I think they might be better taking something and getting nothing at the end of the season.
That's actually a good point, Wolf. Is it a decent gamble for Hearts to say, right, well, listen, if you don't pay us what we want, we'll keep Suter and it will help us finish higher up the table, which of course in turn then means that they get more money?
No, I agree with Kerr. I can understand why Hearts are playing hardball because they want to maximise the profitability of the player, which is fine. We would do exactly the same. But I honestly believe that they'll take something rather than get nothing. That's why I think he'll be here by basically this time next week. Because I think they'll take something. They won't let him go for 50 grand. It'll not be another Glenn Kamara. It won't be 50 grand, 100 grand or whatever. But I think they'll accept 300 grand if that's what we're actually offering. I think they'd accept that rather than losing for nothing 4 months down the line. Because they've gone big on their social media in the last couple of weeks, saying that they've got their entire defence tied down in longer term contracts, apart from John Suter because he's made it clear he's leaving. I mean, Halkett signed an extension, the boy Smith signed an extension. I think their entire defence. Craig Gordon signed an extension. I mean, he signed up now till he's about 86.
That's another 5
so
years.
they're quite happy with what the business has done, but they need to have money to pay these because I'm assuming when they've signed up, they've not signed up on the same money. They'll sign up on better terms, so they'll need money to pay that as well. So that's why I think they'll certainly take something. But I mean, let's look at it. Let him play next week. We'll find out next week if he plays on Wednesday night against Celtic. Then that'll tell us something. If they leave him out of that, then they're definitely wanting to do a bit of business.
Do you think Rangers could offer and say we'll give you 300,000 an hour, and then if we win the league, we'll give you another 100,000?
I mean, there could be anything offered. But Kerr, do we need him right now?
We don't, but it's another body to the squad, isn't it? And I think if you bring him in now, like Wolf said earlier, Golson is leaving or something like that, gets him integrated into the club, integrated into the team. So come the summer and start next season, he will be up and running. Bring him in the summer. I'm not saying he won't be, but it gives him a few months in the club to settle in, doesn't it? If you get him in just now.
Well, we've also got to look at it during the Stirling and Albion game on Friday night. There was a couple of occasions when Goldson swapped sides at the back. So he swapped across. So was that, you have to think, was that the manager thinking, well, look, we'll see how it works because if and when Suter comes in, he'll play where Goldson wants to play. So we'll be swapping sides of them. Because let's be honest, when Suter's supposed to be going in, Goldson's supposed to be leaving. So why else would they do that if they didn't think either Goldson's staying or Suter's coming in, or possibly both?
But well, if Suter comes in, right? Just say Suter comes in before the end of January. Hillander's back fit, Balogun's back fit, Goldson's back fit, Bassey even. Does Suter start for Rangers?
No, but because you can now put 5 subs in the league, you can put them on the bench. And you can bleed him into the team. I mean, you're going to have to. We're managing Hillander's minutes before he got injured, so we're going to have to manage him even more now. Exactly the same with Balogun. I mean, Balogun's what mid 30s. I can't see him extending his contract. I think he'll possibly be away, so he'll probably get the least minutes of all the centre halves we have going forward. Because Hillander is hopefully going to stay, but we need to manage his minutes. So Suter wouldn't walk into the team. But my concern is that something happens to Barisic. Barisic gets injured, then we have to put Bassey at left back. That means we're light in the centre back department. That's probably the main reason I'd like to bring Suter in.
While we're talking about centre backs, Kerr, the forgotten man, of course, that is Nikola Katic. He's obviously out on loan at the moment. I think I seen something a while ago, and I don't know if it's 100% true, but apparently he deleted everything to do with Rangers off his Instagram or something. I don't know what that in turn means, but obviously bringing Suter in, whether Connor Goldson goes or signs a new contract or whatever with Haaland or Bassey Balogun, is his time up at Rangers?
I say so, yeah. I think his time's been up for a while, isn't it? Even before Gio came in, I don't know why, because I thought Big Katic was okay. Defensive wise, he was okay. Distribution wise, wasn't great, was he? He hit me sometimes he's passing, then you'd up and pays the road west. But I just think he would go through a brick wall for you. Went defensively, he was good in there, but he was liable to the odd mistake. And I don't think he might be suited the way we're going to play in the future. And if we can get any money back from then, you would take it. I mean, back to creation. He's done okay. I think he's been left out of the team a few times, so maybe sometimes players end up better than what they are when they're not with the club or are on loan somewhere. It's one of the things, but I think his time's up, Martin. And as for John Stewart earlier, if John Stewart came in, I would start John Stewart for the reason being his distribution in the ball, his manipulation in the ball, and his passing's far better than anybody else we've got apart from Golson. So that's how I would start him.
Katic for you, Wilf. Do you know what, for me it's a strange one because sometimes you can let go of that wee tiny bit of quality for somebody who's 100% committed. I mean, look, the guy scored a goal at Parkhead to win the game 2-1. He's a big brute of a man. He's bulked himself up. I don't know what it is. I like Katic.
I like Big Katic as well. I mean, as we always said about, we'd head his own granny. I mean, he would head the moon for Rangers, you know. But it strikes me that it's noticeable that the new manager brought back Big Cedric Itten from Germany. Okay, that was a strange loan move anyway, because Gunther Firth, or however you pronounce it, they were always going to struggle in the Bundesliga. So why you would put a striker out there, I've got absolutely no idea. Although he did score against Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
Yes, he did, Dan. You know, and the only game they've won this season is against the team that I look out for in the Bundesliga. So we'll gloss over Gunther Firth. But he's brought him back. Whatever team it was he played for, them that played Green. But I mean, he's brought him back to see what he can do, because there's no point in him sitting on the bench in Germany, right? Katic, as Kerr says, I don't think he's been playing regularly for. Is it Hajduk Split that he's at? He hasn't been playing regularly for them, although he has been playing. But there's been no inclination for the manager to bring him back. And on top of that, they've also given the squad number away, because they gave James Katic a squad number. So, I mean, the fact that the loan deal, it's a loan with an option to buy, I think they've obviously had word that, look, we'll just keep him at the end of the season. I think his time, and unfortunately his time is up at Rangers, I think.
While we're on the subject, I should say, of loans, something that we haven't actually discussed even on the main pod yet, Kerr, is Stephen Kelly going to Salford.
Yep.
We could sit here and discuss Stephen Kelly all day, but we'll try and keep it brief. First of all, good loan move for him. Second of all, does he have a future at Rangers?
Very good loan move from Salford. Obviously, because who owns them and stuff like that, they get well followed and they're always in the news. So I think that's a good move from him. If he does well there, then he's putting himself in a bit of the frame to maybe go somewhere else. I think his time at Rangers could be up, Martin. I think there's been a few different managers say he's in who's on fringes of the first team squad and then don't include him for whatever reason. We all like Stephen Kelly. We all think he would do something, especially against St Albion Friday nights type of game. You bring him in. I'd rather see him playing than people like Barker and Simpson, but I'm not a manager, so I think Stephen's probably looking at it now from his personal angle and saying, right, I've been at Rangers this long, I've not really been given a chance. I've had a few loan spells, done well, I've come back, so I'm not given a chance. So I think if he hits again running down England and he can do well at Salford, maybe bringing somebody else to the fold that's interested, I think he could end up going down to England and get a successful career for himself.
We have seen it, Wilf. We've seen, obviously, Greg Docherty go down south, go to Shrewsbury. I think he's at Hull now. Yeah. Stephen Kelly going down to... What league is Salford in? League 1?
League 2.
League 2. What's your thoughts on the whole Stephen Kelly saga? And after you answer that, I think we actually might have a wee quick chat about the youth team. Even though this is transfer talk, but it is the rabble. So,
I think Stephen Kelly's better than League 2 in England. I think Salford's a lower level team than he possibly should be at, but it's probably the highest profile team in the bottom 2 leagues in England. So from that point of view, it's probably a good move for them, because obviously, as Kerr says, because of who owns them, they've got a lot of eyes on them. So from that point of view, it's probably a good move for him. But having said that, he has to do well because he is better than that level.
Mm.
But for me, the problem Stephen Kelly's got is exactly the same problem that Greg Docherty had. That you get to the age of 20, 21, you've got nowhere to go. If you're not in the first team, you can't play in the B team because that's 20 or under. There's no reserve league, so there's nowhere to go. So, I mean, yes, Stephen Kelly would probably have done well against Stirling Albion, but that's the only game time he would have got.
Yeah.
So he has to go somewhere where he's going to get regular game time. And with the best will in the world, he'll get more eyes on him at Salford City than he would at Ross County or at Ayr United or other places that he's been. Because unfortunately, I think his time at Rangers is up because he seems to have stood still when guys like Alex Lowry and the like are sort of coming through a little bit.
Do you know? Right. Okay. Here we go. Well, if I know you watch a lot of the B team, look, we've obviously had Nathan Patterson who's came through. He's left this window. He's left for significant money, even though he's been in the bench twice for Everton, and then the game there he wasn't even on the bench. But we've had Billy Gilmore, a wee bit of a different situation. He left to go to Chelsea. We couldn't really keep a hold of him. We've had Stephen Kelly, Greg Docherty came into Hamilton. We've had a few youth players now who have been on the bench, maybe had a wee cup appearance, and haven't really made the grade. We now have Alex Lowry, who's come in against Stirling. Looked really good, looked brilliant. We have to remember the level he's playing against. But is there a worry, and maybe it will change with Gio, but is there a worry now that no matter how well these young players look, no matter how well they play in the B team, against Stirling, whatever, that there is just no pathway to the first team?
No, I think there is a pathway. Nathan Patterson's proved there's a pathway. Leon King being promoted to the first team dressing room, that tells you that there's a pathway. Alex Lowry coming off the bench after 13 or 14 minutes on Friday night. I mean, he could quite easily have brought somebody else on, but he chose to go with the kid and didn't let himself down. Quite rightly got man of the match. Terrific goal, great performance. The problem that we've got is until regime change, as Mr. King we call it, in 2015, the academy, although we had it had been neglected. So there was definitely no pathway then. There was nothing. The coaches weren't up to it. There was nothing. So really we're playing catch up on other academies, if you like, and it's just starting to bear fruit now because these guys that are coming through now, 16, 17, 18 year old, they sort of joined the academy seriously at the time, sort of 2015, 2016. So they're starting to come through now. Guys like like Alec Lowry, Tony Weston. I mean, we're bringing in players. I mean, we brought Tony Weston up from Blackpool. We brought Charlie McCann up from Man United. Mm-hmm. And these guys are quality players, and at least they're getting involved. I mean, they make no secret of the fact that that these guys regularly train with the first team, although they're not officially part of the first team unit. You had 2 or 3 of them on the bench on Friday night. I know that was still an Albion, and it's you've got to keep it all relative. But I think going forward, again, because of the extra subs that we can use now, I think we'll see a lot more of these guys on the bench, and they will get game time because I think, given that Van Bronckhorst comes from Holland and he keeps reminding people he came through the Feyenoord Academy, so he knows how important it is to give guys game time. I think there will be more players coming through. The problem that we've got is if they hit the ground and they're as good for us as Nathan Patterson was, we're going to lose them, like we did with Patterson. Haven't seen very, very little of them because that's just the way it is, because we play in a diddy wee league with hardly any money in it.
Right. See, on that point, Kerr, right? See, even, for example, if Alex Lowry plays the next 5 games, really shines, looks really good. I mean, let's go mental and say he gets 15 minutes against Borussia Dortmund, and he looks really, really good, and we sell him for another club record fee. Is that not what we want? Is that not what we want to do? Bring through youth players. All right, some of them make the first team, but we get really good money for them. Why not give them a chance? I'll rephrase that. Still in Albion, right? Why would you not have rested Connor Goldson and played Leon King?
I think there's always a thing in the back of the manager's mind, Martin, just in case they may rest too many first team players and they slip up because they don't want to afford that considering our record in the last few years. But I like to see youngsters in the team. I think at a team as high profile as Rangers, when you finish second, that's classed as failure. You don't want to risk too many of them because you can't, just for the fact in case it doesn't work. So you're always going to go with experience because you need to win games. A draw is at Rangers isn't good enough. As we know, you need to win games because we've seen with Aberdeen after the fiasco after it, how many people were starting to complain. So I think it's hard being at a club like Rangers, and I think it's always easier at smaller clubs coming through. Because if you do come through, like Wolf said, like Nathan Patterson, you shine, and other clubs find going to see that, and you get a transfer money, which we're gladly to get, but we don't want to see players leaving either, especially young talent. But if you can bring one or two through a season, that's your aim. Obviously, you've got a squad of 16 guys in the B team. Not every one of them is going to be a Rangers player. I'm sorry to say, but they're going to end up maybe going elsewhere, and they'll all maybe get good careers for themselves at lower league clubs in Scotland or England. But if he can bring through one, maybe two a season, to get into the first team squad and hopefully become a first team regular, that's the aim. If he can sell players on, that's the aim as well. But I think there is a pathway, but a big club like Rangers, it's smaller than other clubs just for the fact you can't take that gamble as much because you can't finish second in the league.
I want to take that to you, Wolf, and I want to use an example of a Dutch team, Ajax. Now, I'm well aware that Ajax, when they do spend, they maybe spend 20, 30 million on players, right? I completely get that. But Ajax are also in a position where they have to win their league every single year. I know they don't always, but they have to. They need the money, they need the Champions League money, etc., etc. They're still more than happy to put 17, 18-year-olds in their team. Why aren't we?
Because Ajax, I've had this discussion with a few people, because Ajax's 17 and 18-year-olds that have come through their academy are playing in young Ajax, as they call it, the Ajax B team. They play in the second division in Holland. They play in the league immediately below the Eredivisie. They play in they play in the Dutch Cup. Our B team stuck away down in the fifth tier of Scottish football, playing against. They're playing against men, but they're basically playing against guys where football's a hobby. They're not playing against seasoned professional players. They're not playing against guys that are fighting for promotion to try and get into the big league. That to me is the big difference, is the level our B team play at. The B team experiment in the lower league for me has worked. Right, for me it's really worked. It's toughened a lot of these guys up. But the problem with the lower league is that the games against the top teams are really good, but there's a lot of really, really poor teams in that league. Yeah, I mean, just look at some of the scores. I mean, Rangers, a team full of kids, are beating teams 7, 8 and 9 sometimes. You're not learning anything from that, but you're learning a lot from playing like the Caledonian Braves last week and drawing 2-2 in the last minute, stuff like that. They need to be playing at a higher level because there's no pathway after the B team. There's nothing. There's no bridge from the B team into the first team. There's not an under-23 league like they've got in England. So, Ajax's B team. It's not just Ajax. It's Ajax, Feyenoord, PSV, Utrecht. They've all got. I mean, they've all got B teams. But I was lucky after we played Feyenoord the last time in the Europa League. I was in Amsterdam till the Saturday, so I went up to a team called Telstar, who's just outside Amsterdam, and they were playing young Ajax in the second division in Holland, and it was a really good game of football. There was a lot of skill on show, and the young Ajax team, they were basically the same age as our B team, but they were playing at a much, much higher level. It was a much higher standard. That's why they can afford to bring players through. The other thing as well, I mean, I don't really know much about the Dutch football culture, but I mean, look at how the Rangers support react when a player comes in and doesn't do well. I mean, James Sands got thrown in against Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Through no fault of his own. We were short of bodies. He threw him in, and he was getting quite a lot of criticism because he wasn't an absolute standout. So you throw a young guy in, a 17, 18-year-old in, that could destroy the guy. That could absolutely destroy him if he doesn't hit the ground running. So we've got to shoulder a lot of the blame as well as supporters.
I think there's a slight difference there, Kerr, and I don't think it's right. I actually thought against Aberdeen that James Sands was actually okay. I thought he was one of our better players.
I said he was man of the match myself. I thought he done really well.
Better players, right? But had that been, say for example, that was Alex Lowry that was thrown in and didn't have that great a game, I don't think he gets half the pelters that Sands got.
I don't know. I just think it's hard for the young players to come in. They're desperate to come in, and sometimes when they come in, as you know, they don't get any fear. So they're going to come in and try their best. Whereas guys that seasoned professionals been in at a club for a while come in and don't do that, as we've seen. So I think we have to try and blood more, but we have to be careful when, because let's see, we can't blood 2, 3, 4 at a time. I think that doesn't work. And I think, like I said earlier, a draw for Rangers in the league shows you how much abuse some of the players get and what happens, especially social media these days. I think it was different maybe 20, 30 years ago. And I know we don't like to comment about what's happened in the past, but I think a perfect example for us to blood young players was when we were coming through leagues. That was a perfect time. and we never ever done it because we were signing all these season pros
Yeah.
who were on a fortune and weren't good enough. I know that's a different matter altogether, but that was the
And
perfect time
we
to do it.
we will be starting a new series on the Rabo Network, The Dark Days, where we'll be going through 2012 and the subsequent seasons after that. And I know that Wilf's desperate to get involved in that.
But even back then, when you had
I've-
types something like Lewis McLeod coming through, it showed you when he done well. Boy,
Yeah.
bitered injuries because he was a fantastic player, but we had to sell him as well. But even you see Hearts getting fish from Barry Mackay, who came through Rangers. Well, I know he went Kilmarnock and he came to Rangers, but you see how good a player he is. So
Hibs
players
have done
for the
it for
youth,
years. Hibs have done it for
but
donkeys.
Hibs only fighting for leagues, Martin,
No,
because
no, I totally get that. I
we
totally
need
get
to
that.
get back in top. Until we're back in top, but even back in 80s and 70s, 80s and 90s, we didn't bring in a lot of young players. We always
We've never been known for it.
bought players. We've never been known for it, and I think it is just difficult. We have to change our way we're thinking, and Will's right. We are starting to change that way, but you have to walk before we can run. And I think players like Leon King, I think he's got a long future with Rangers, hopefully. But it just depends. It depends who the manager is at the time. It depends if the boys take their chance. And see, at the end of the day, you need need a bit of luck. You need to be there at the right time. And just like Nathan Patterson showing, it's just a bit of luck to get in and prove it and stay there. Whereas somebody like Stephen Kelly never really get an opportunity. So we see him maybe going somewhere else for his future. So I think we'll have to keep an eye on it. But it's good to see guys coming through like Alec Lowry, and hopefully he stays out in the first team because in his interview after the game, you seen how delighted he was and scoring a goal and for Rangers, saying it was his dream. And we all feel that because it's something we would all like to do. So we think we see guys like this coming through, and we all wish we could do it more often. So hopefully we see it in years to come. But I think we have to just, like I said earlier, walk before we can run with the youth side.
Right, shall we get back to the transfer talk? The only reason I brought that up, actually, Wilf, and I'm just contradicting myself like I do all the time. Should we be looking to get to a point where we're not bringing in, and maybe this is harsh, right, but we're not bringing in players like Bakuna, like Barker, you know, players that are just going to be squad players that hardly get a game, and these spaces can be taken up by our youth players?
Yes, but I think that's a long way down the line. As I said earlier, while all the only pathways from the B team and the B team's playing at the level they're playing at, we can't bring players back in. I mean, the as I see it just now, social media is great, right? But it's also a curse where the young players are concerned, because you hear about young players and people are they're raving. They've got, you've got more interaction with the club about how the B team's getting on. You can watch the games live. You can go to the games when you never used to be able to do that. You can watch them live if you can't go to the games on Rangers TV or whatever. It's a fantastic facility. I love it. Brilliant. Make use of it all the time. But then you see Juan Allegri scores a hat-trick early in the season, automatically people are saying we're short of strikers, put the boy in. But there's a lot of folk that don't watch that level of football regularly don't realise there's a hell of a difference between playing in the lower league and playing in the Premiership, and that's where it's a curse. People hear the names and they say, I mean, Alex Lowry's been under the radar quite a bit. I mean, people have been raving about Tony Weston and about Charlie McCann. Alec Lowry's not had the same sort of attention as them, but he's come through. People are expecting a lot more from these kids, forgetting that they are only kids. I mean, back in the day, before social media and all the streaming and stuff, you would maybe see 2 or 3 young players at the end of the season when the league was finished, and you'd get 1 or 2 guys. Nobody had a clue who they were. They looked quite good and they ended up moving on. But these days, you know who everybody is. You've heard of absolutely everybody if you pay attention to what Rangers are tweeting out, what their social media things are. So that puts a lot of pressure, and people have to remember that there is a big difference in the level between playing against a guy that's a plumber by day and playing against a guy that's a full-time professional footballer. Because even if you're only playing for, with the greatest of respect to them, teams like Livingston, St Mirren, it's still something we'd all love to do. These guys are seasoned professional football players. So there's a big difference between playing against that and playing against a guy that's been out doing half a shift before the game in the afternoon.
Yeah, I know, it's true. Right, back to the transfers, Kerr, and a player that we're constantly linked with, who I know absolutely hee-haw about, Skov Olsen. Who is he?
He's a winger for Bologna, I think he is. By all accounts, he's not happy there. I heard the last time I read about him, he was going to Bruges, but I don't know if that's going to happen either. I don't know if you're interested. I think we are, but I don't know how deep it is. I think if we're interested, who should have probably made a move by now. I don't know what the hold up is. It's a position we're crying out for. We've had Fashion playing there, we've had Scott Wright playing there, we've even had Hadji playing there, but I think we need somebody who's an actual right-sided winger, a right-sided midfielder who can give us more, just a bit of shape going forward and stuff like that. Look, he's actually content to sit out wide. So I think we do need somebody in there. Skev Olsen, I don't know if it'll happen. I don't know if Wolf knows more than me. According to a couple of the boys I spoke to, said he's a really good player. Jamie Curry really likes him. I know Jamie does a lot of in-depth stuff, so he does really likes him. So, by all accounts, hopefully it happens. But I don't know because they're talking 5-6 million, aren't they? And I don't know if we're going to spend that money on somebody. Because I don't know even include wages. So I don't know if you're willing to spend that money on somebody to bring somebody in like that.
Scott Olsen, Wilf, again, I'll repeat it, I don't know a great deal about him. All I see every single day is a mention of him. Rangers are interested. Rangers don't give anything away. The only time anything comes out is if it's the player's agent or the club that we're interested in the player from. But there seems to be a big noise about this guy.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him either. I know he's Danish. Apparently, playing against Scotland. I don't watch Scotland, so I wouldn't have seen him. He plays with Bologna. I had heard he was going to Club Brugge as well, but I heard that a week, 10 days ago, and that's not happened yet. So if that's not happened yet, you've got to question why it's not happened. Is the Rangers, the link with Rangers, just his agent trying to hurry Club Brugge along? Just so look, Rangers are interested as well, because like you say, we don't leak anything, nothing comes out from our end. So it's got to come out from either his people or from Bologna. So for me, either Bologna's trying to flush Club Brugge out and get them to actually part with their cash, or his agent's trying to do exactly the same. I don't know anything about the guy. We are scheming out for somebody in the position I believe he plays in, which is wide right, because my concern if we don't bring somebody in that position is that we're going to spend the second half of the season with possibly Ryan Kent on that side as opposed to on the left, and then with either Sakala or Wright on the right hand side, on the left hand side, sorry. So if we've got to use what we've got, that we're going to have to switch Ryan Kent and wings and see where we go from there. But we could really do with, as Kerr says, a natural right-sided player. If it's Scott Olsen, then it's Scott Olsen, but I don't know the first thing about the guy.
No, and we'll come to what we definitely need shortly, Wilf. But another player that we've been linked with, and I know Kerr spoke to Michael Statham of Football Oranje. Is that how you pronounce it, Kerr? Oranje?
Yep, Oranje.
But Wilf, Danilo Doki. Bit strange that I know he's out of contract at the end of the year, I think. For what I gathered for Kerr's conversation, he won't be leaving in January. It will definitely be the end of the season. But would that suggest to you that if we are interested in him, that's 100% Connor Goldson away?
If we announce a pre-contract with him, yes, because that'll be our signing pre-contracts with two centre backs.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, as I say, as we say, I'm not sure Balogun's going to re-sign. So that's another centre half that's away. So from numbers wise, we would need him. But this guy's rated quite highly. So I'd imagine if we bring him in, he'll be on a few quid. So you don't bring in a guy of that stature to sit on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would think if we sign him, that's possibly why we're holding off on it, because we don't know what Goldson's doing yet. I mean, the fact that Connor Goldson, there doesn't seem to even be any word of teams being interested in him.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, we don't leak anything. So you would think if somebody down south was interested in Goldson, they would possibly be making it public. Unless he said, if you make it public, I'm not coming. I don't know.
Yeah.
So in the back of my mind is he actually going to see where we end up, and if we win the league, going to re-sign for a crack at the Champions League?
Well,
it's one of those unknowns, isn't it?
Would you want to keep a player like that though, who's saying I'm only going to stay if we're getting Champions League football?
But he's not actually said that. I'm only surmising that's what he's saying.
If that is the case, would you want to keep that player?
No, if a player doesn't want to be at Rangers, then I would just get rid of them straight away. It's just, if you don't want to play for my club, then see you later on. I'd rather have a player of lesser quality that wants to be there. Yeah. To be perfectly honest.
Like Katic. Kerr, you spoke to Michael, and he, correct me if I'm wrong, but he did say there was definite interest from Rangers, didn't he?
He did. He said Rangers were one of the clubs that were interested. There have been a few different clubs interested, but he called him Dookie, so I'll just say Dookie as well. He said that he's committed to Vitesse till the end of the season. He's given his loyalty to them. He's that type of player. He came through the Ajax academy, but never featured for Ajax at all. He's a good defender. He's aggressive. He said he'd probably suit British football the way he plays. His passing's not the greatest. He said his distribution, but he's a good defender. He's good in there. He's tackling very strong. He's not the quickest, but he said he's okay speed wise, but he doesn't get a lot of goals from set pieces. I think he's only scored twice in his career. So, but he does say he's up and coming. He's been involved with a touch squad, but he's not played for Holland. He's played in the
Well, you've
under.
got Van Dijk and De Ligt. You're not going to get
Yeah,
ahead of them, are you?
I know, but even like friendlies. So he said he's a lot of good positives about him. He's got his negatives as well. But he said the way he plays, he's not a natural Dutch defender, as in he doesn't come out the back with the ball and straight forward like maybe Van Dijk does or De Ligt does. But he said he's a very good defender. And to be honest with you, sometimes you need that because I think John Souttar's
Mm-hmm.
opposite. He's good at coming out with the ball, isn't he? So maybe that's why we're interested because sometimes you like the opposites to play centre back. So I think it's one to watch. I mean, that Michael Statham did say he's a very good defender, and he actually thought he's a really good player. So, and he would suit the way we played, even suit the way teams in England play. So I think it's one to
Left
watch.
or right-sided centre back, Kerr?
I think he's a right-sided. I'm not sure.
See, so is Suter as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. Well, what do we 100% definitely need in this January transfer window?
Well, before that, if I can go back to the boy Dookie or Doki, whatever he's called, right? Just something Kerr said there just hit a note with me that he's not been capped by Holland. That could potentially put a spanner in the deal because that might hold up him getting a work permit if he's not, and actually because of this, not being in Europe anymore. I don't know how that works. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but that could possibly be what's stalling it. So it maybe is something that we're looking at, but we're not sure we'll get a work permit from him. I don't know. It just suddenly came into my head there when he mentioned he's not a full international. But to answer your question, to get back to what we need, as we said, we need somebody wide on the right, and we also need an attacking midfield player that can drive us through the middle. I think, and we need to bring somebody in that can walk into the first team. We don't need to. We've got enough squad players in that position. We need somebody that can come in because we've not really, in the last 3 or 4 windows, we've not really brought in anybody that is a first team starter if he's fit all the time. We've brought in loads of squad players, and you need squad players, but we need somebody of a quality, a level and a quality, and that's going to mean spending money. And we're in a position now we've got money to spend, but I don't want us to be held to ransom. I don't want somebody to say, look, you want him, you've just got £12 million in for Nathan Patterson, so we're wanting half of that. I don't, I want to pay what we think the player's worth, not what somebody thinks we can afford to pay.
Yeah, that is massive. Kerr not being held to ransom, and Rangers strike me. Ross Wilson strikes me as the type of guy that won't be.
I think that just happens in January because people know clubs are desperate in January for all different reasons, fighting for titles, fighting for cups or relegation. As you probably see with Newcastle, they're getting told different figures for players. I think in January clubs know that if you want a player, you're going to have to pay 10-20% over maybe what they're worth. So, and I think like Wolf said, because we've got a bit of money, but I don't think we'll spend any money. I think we brought in the boy Sands. I think we might eventually bring in Suter if we can agree with Hearts, but I think if we bring anybody in, it's going to be on deals. I don't think we'll bring anybody in just for the fact that we've got too many bits of dead wood in the squad that we can't get rid of, and the wage bill might be high, and that's it. I think that could be the problem. Players like Simpson, Barker, even Middleton at St Johnstone, there's a few others. Bacuna to me was a pointless signing, but that was just my opinion. I think we've got too many players in there earning good money. Other clubs don't want to pay them until they're free, and so they're not going to take them from us unless we pay them off. And if you pay somebody off, then you're touching your budget as well. So I think Ross Wilson may have been told get rid of some before you bring others in just to get the wage down. But I don't know. I think it could be loan signings for us, which won't happen until near the end of the transfer window.
That is a big problem we have, Wolf, that we have so many players now that are nowhere near the first team, and B, it's going to be so difficult to get rid of them because we're looking for them to go to a club that's probably a little bit less than us in terms of ability of squad, and it's asking the teams to be able to afford the players' wages.
Yeah, I mean, guys, it's no for me. I know Brandon Barker played against Stirling Albion, but I think that was put in the shop window. He's not putting him in the shop window. No,
Poundland.
Same with Jack Simpson. These guys will be on decent money, and you can't blame them for sitting picking up their wages. You would hope. I mean, we would all say, look, if it's us, we just want to be playing football and going, take a pay cut and go something. But that's easy to say. We're not in that position. That's easy enough for us to say, right? But I mean, I would assume that we're actively trying to put these guys on loan and maybe say, look, we'll pay half their wages, you pay half their wages, just to get them off the wage bill. I mean, the one that's a conundrum for me is John Lundstrom, because I quite rate John Lundstrom. I think he's got something about him. He strolled that game on Friday night, and again, look at the level of opposition. But the way we set up, if it wasn't for the fact that Alex Lowry came on and was absolutely outstanding, I'd have given Lundstrom a man of the match on Friday. But he's on a hell of a lift. I mean, apparently he's the highest paid player at the club, or one of the highest paid players at the club. But he's not featuring regularly. So do we just bite the bullet and get rid of him? And again, who's going to take him on the wages that he's on? Mm-hmm. That's the problem.
That is the biggest problem, Kerr, probably at the club. And I suppose Mark Allen as well as Ross Wilson have got to take some of the flack for that, have they not?
I have, and I know Ross gets a lot of plaudits, but you brought in a lot of players that's not really featured and not really done a lot for us. I mean, you can probably name 6 or 7 that he's brought in and not really done well, and I think obviously every transfer's a gamble. Doesn't matter what the cost or who you bring in, every transfer's a gamble, because players might not like the club or they might not settle or family issues, stuff like that. But I think we have a lot of players at Ibrox that aren't featuring, aren't doing nothing, and they're getting paid Martin handsomely, and they're getting paid money probably more guys like us will never see. So I think you've seen it with Barker get down to Oxford on loan, didn't really feature that much, and he gets sent back up the road. So if somebody like Oxford United can tell me Brandon Barker, who are we going to get rid of him to? I mean, Jack Simpson's the same. He didn't play a lot of football for Bournemouth. We signed him, but he's not coming up here for
he's not played a lot of football for us either, though, Kerr.
He hasn't, no, but I mean, that's when maybe 3-4 different managers seen him and he's not playing, so you can't always blame the manager. Sometimes you have to look at the player and just think maybe he isn't good enough for this level. I don't know. I've never really seen much of him, to be fair. Jack Simpson, he looks too timid for me for Scottish football. He looks comfortable in the ball, but he looks too timid. I don't know. I just think there's maybe 4, 5, 6 players at Rangers that shouldn't be there next season, but if they are, then obviously that could be a stumbling block of bringing players in, because their wages are holding up bringing players through, also holding up giving players maybe better contracts to keep them at Ibrox. You just don't know what's going behind the scenes, but I think we can't always bring players in. Sometimes you have to release players before we can bring players in. I know Nathan Patterson's away. That's an offer we couldn't turn down, but there's other players there that can go.
Patterson, no, Wilf wouldn't have been on a high wage at Rangers.
No, he wouldn't have been in his. I mean, he's maybe on 8 or 10 times what he was on now that he's at Everton, and fair play to him, because I mean they've signed him as a £16 million player, so they need to pay him, money commensurate with that, and that's fine, great. But I mean the problem I see, again, it sounds like I'm knocking the Scottish football and the way the system is that these guys that we've got that aren't featuring, the Barkers and the Simpsons and the Macunas, they've got nowhere to showcase their talents, because they can't play in the B team because they're too old. There isn't a reserve league, so if they're not featuring in the first team, they're not featuring at all. So how can we expect somebody to come in and, so look, take Brandon Barker off us. He's played 90 minutes in 4 months. Janine Bakuna, he's played probably about the same in the same length of time. Clubs haven't seen these guys play. They can't send scouts to reserve games because there isn't reserve games. We don't play bounce games against anybody. So that's another part of the problem, as well as the wages that they're on. Is you're asking people to take teams to take players off your hands, possibly for money, and take a punt on them. They've not actually seen them in action. They've not seen them do anything. I mean, by all accounts, Brandon Barker is the best trainer you will ever get at any football club ever. He trains absolutely brilliantly. Apparently, I've heard that a few times from people, but he's just not got the ability to play for us. I'm sorry, he's just not good enough to play for us. But he could have himself a decent career somewhere at a fairly decent level, but people aren't prepared to take a chance on him because they've not seen what he can do in a competitive environment because he doesn't play. Martin, you're on mute.
You're on mute,
Martin.
I would be on mute. There you go. I was making a fantastic point as well. I call it the Philip Sebo effect. Until the day that Philip Sebo left Rangers, I was convinced he was going to turn into a player. And there's a few players at Rangers over the years that I've thought that about. Brandon Barker is not one of those people. But yeah, it's going to be hard to shift some of these players. Just to finish off, Wilf, what have you made in the last 2-3 years? Mostly, obviously, under Gerrard's term because Gio's just in the door. Of the transfer business that the club's actually done?
It's been, I would say we've had probably more failures than successes. We brought in guys, like you say, we brought in guys like Barker, Bakuna, Jordan Jones. You know, they just haven't worked. Lundstrom's jury's still out on him. Brought in a lot of guys on serious money that we haven't really spent a lot of money. John Flanagan, yeah. I mean, we haven't really spent a lot of money, which is a blessing because it's, you know, you're not trying to recoup the money. But now, on the whole, I think we've had more failures than successes, but the successes have been good. I mean, we have brought in some good players, you know. But it's noticeable that the player that we sell for big money is a guy we brought through ourselves. You know, that's quite that's very noticeable. But you can't turn down that kind of money for a guy that's not even affecting the first team because he started 4 games this season before we sold him. So that's a fantastic piece of transfer business. So if you're looking at it from that point of view, transfer business has been great, but we haven't brought in anybody that we've been able to resell for a profit or for a major profit.
Yeah.
Aye, but Kerr, you look at likes of, I mean, Glenn Kamara, 50 grand, Borna Barisic, was it 2 million? Connor Goldson, 3 million. I know he might go on a free, but just in terms of value for transfer. Yeah. Ryan Kent, 7 million. I mean, really
I think Ryan's been a success.
Yeah, he's been. So see if you look at like what Wolf says, the successes. I mean, 50 grand, 2 million, 3 million is nothing compared to what you could get for these guys if they were on the appropriate contracts. Does that kind of hide the bad business that we've done?
I think it's always going to, you get 1 or 2 successes, people look back now. I mean, Glenn Kamara, doesn't matter if he's at Rangers or not, we're always going to talk about, we'll be saying Glenn Kamara for 50 grand and how good he was. So I think that's going to highlight that the bad players coming in, let's say it's not the players' fault, it's just they've come in, they can't handle Rangers, they just can't handle the league, they're just not as good as obviously the recruitment team thought. So it's just one of these things. I mean, John Flanagan, I know you mentioned Flanagan, I thought John Flanagan was actually okay, we signed him for free. Yeah, I don't think you had a club at the time, but he came in, done a job, he came into the team when we needed him, you'd another player that run through a brick wall for you, and I think Flanagan actually done okay. He was probably past his best, but he done okay when we needed him, and he probably served his time well with Rangers. Other players have flattered to deceive. Attin to me still got a big question mark. I think he can offer something if he play his strengths. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I think if you can get 2 wingers playing the other side and flick the ball, and I think said that it could, because you know he can score. I think he could be a bit of a nuisance, but that's up to him to prove that. I think he's getting to the end of the season to show what he can do, and then after that, I think he could be another one that's out the door. But as we all know, out the door doesn't mean you leave because the players are earning a lot of money, and unless a club's willing to pay money or the players want to take a contract, a decrease in their wages, then they're not going to be going anywhere. But I do think we need a few players, and I think we need a right winger for sure, a box to box midfielder, but I think we need another striker. I think we need a backup striker because I know Defoe wasn't playing a lot of football, but he was there and ready in case we needed him. And I think we do need somebody else up top. I know during the summer it could be a rebuild because the players have got a contract: Davis, Arfield, McGregor, McLaughlin, a few others, Golson. So I think it could be a big clear out in the summer. But I think we need to get the rest of this season going. We need some players in. We need to bring players in because I think sometimes you have to bring players in and spend a bit of money because there's a big transfer pot at the end of it and there's a big goal at the end of this one, and we can't afford not to be fighting till the end because we've seen what other clubs in the league have done. They brought players in. We can all laugh and joke, saying they're not great, but I think our squad lacks a bit of depth in certain areas, and I think that's why we need to bring players in before the end of this window.
The big question, Wolf, and look, Kerr mentioned he doesn't think we're going to make any signings. It'll be loan deals. See if that is the case and we get to the end of the window and the window slams shut and we've maybe signed 1 or 2 more guys on loan. That's not going to appease the Rangers support, is it?
Depends who the guys are. I mean, I know a lot of support are looking for Rangers to go out and spend big money, but we can't just spend big money for the sake of spending big money to keep people happy. If we get the chance to bring in a name, somebody that people have heard of, a decent, you know, a proper footballer in a position that we need, I'd be quite happy to bring him in on loan for 6 months loan with, or a year's loan with an option to, well, maybe with an option to buy him. You know, I mean, I agree with Kerr. I don't think we'll be spending big money. I do expect a few more bodies in the building, but I also expect a few more bodies out as well. So as long as the guys that leave are only squad players, and we bring in at least one player of quality that can walk into the first team, then it'll be a successful window.
All right, final question to you, Kerr, then. On the 31st of January, what is a successful window for Rangers?
Bringing a right winger in at least. I think if we can get a right winger in and a box-to-box midfielder, I'll be happy with that. I think we will be short up top, but I think we will enough goal in the middle to see us through. But I think we need to add 2 more at least. Either been signings or a loan deal. A loan deal doesn't bother me, like Will said, depending on who you bring in. There's a lot of players about that you could bring on loan with an option to buy, or even just a loan spell for 5-6 months just to get themselves back in the picture. Because when you bring somebody on loan, some of these guys have got a point to prove as well. So sometimes that can help you because they've got a point to prove. So I think you have to bring some of them. But I see people leaving as well, and I think there might be one big offer we might have to either decide before the end of the season on a player. So I think that could happen. As in an offer coming in towards us, I think we'll have to decide if the player goes or not.
Well, we shall wait and see what happens. Obviously, if there is anything that happens, if we bring any players in or whatever, there will be breaking news pods live on YouTube, of course, as we try and get out there as quick as we can to bring you a reaction. But, Kerr, thank you very much.
No bother.
Wilf, thank you as well.
Cheers, Martin. Thanks, Kerr.
Thank you for everybody listening. Thank you for being a Patreon or a member on our YouTube channel. You're really helping support the content. I might throw this out on YouTube maybe tomorrow or Tuesday, unless we sign somebody and our conversation becomes absolutely redundant. But anyway, thank you for listening.